Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone joining us at the Mentoring Summit India 2024. We are thrilled to have all of you here celebrating with us. I'm Ashita. I work as a program lead with Mentor Together. So, in our session today about mentoring young girls and women in the global south, we'll explore the powerful impact of mentorship for young girls and women in the global south. We'll hear about this through the experiences of Echidna scholars from Uganda, Vietnam, and India. The Echidna Global Scholars Program at the Brookings Institution supports grassroots leaders working on gender transformation in and through education in advancing their work and research. This happens through both a research residency at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., and later through a community of practice and ongoing learning amongst 44 alumni across 23 countries. Please join me in welcoming Anusha Bharadwaj, who is the Executive Director of Voice for Girls. Anusha leads a group of passionate individuals at Voice for Girls, a social enterprise that educates and empowers marginalized adolescent girls with the vision to eliminate gender inequality and violence. She is also the founder director of Soch for Social Change, a platform that offers young social change agents an opportunity to develop their leadership capacities. Anusha is an Echidna Global Scholar 2023. We welcome you, ma'am. Now, I would like to welcome Tran, who is the co-founder of For Good Vietnam Network. Tran has 20 years of experience working in managerial and leadership positions at leading higher education institutions, looking at admissions, accreditation, faculty development, international partnership, training, coaching, and mentoring. Tran is an Echidna Global Scholar 2021. We welcome you. Now, I would like to welcome Christine Epiot, who works as an education program manager at Cotton On Foundation, Uganda. She has worked extensively with organizations dealing with issues that affect children and women and strives to apply her understanding of world education context to work in the Ugandan education system. She is passionate about children and wants to advocate for their rights at every opportunity she can get. Christine is an Echidna Global Scholar 2016. We welcome you. Please join me in welcoming our final speaker and host for this session, Dr. Livia Alfonsi, who is an assistant professor at Harvard Business School. Livia is a development economist whose research focuses on labor market frictions and determinants of labor market participation in low-income settings, with a particular emphasis on barriers of youth employment and female labor market participation. Livia has worked extensively in the global south, having lived in Uganda for her doctoral research. She is also currently starting on an exciting project with Mentor Together to study mentor motivations. Welcome, Dr. Livia. So, yeah, over to you guys.
Oh, great. This is on. Can you hear me? Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be here. I was just telling Arundhati this morning that I was almost moved, not exaggerating, when I saw how many people are turning up to think and share their experience and are interested in looking at the mentoring, how mentoring can be a powerful tool to empower, to uplift in the Global South. We had in the very first panel another researcher from the US that talked about how many researchers there are that have been thinking about mentoring over there. I've been thinking about mentoring in the Global South and specifically in Uganda, and it's been a bit more of a solitary journey so far, so it's really exciting to see so many of you here. I'm going to, so today's session is going to really be about, we're going to hear from three experienced women on the power that mentorship can have in empowering young girls. And we're going to think about how to design and learn from their experiences and how to design mentorship programs in various contexts and how to make them context specific. I'll give you a couple of minutes maybe on my own experience, but then I'll leave the floor to them. As I mentioned, I've been studying mentoring in Uganda, and specifically over there, we designed and evaluated a program called Meet Your Future. And this was a program aimed at helping vocational students, so graduates from vocational training, in their transition into the workforce. The sort of context specificity, if you want, that we sort of had to deal with when thinking about labor market transition in a place like this was urban labor markets in Uganda, really had to do a lot with the informality of the job search process and of the labor market. We've heard from LinkedIn earlier on. A lot of the youth I've been thinking about don't really have yet access to LinkedIn, or a lot of the firms that this youth will end up being placed in are not using yet LinkedIn or similar platforms for sponsoring their jobs. So how do we sort of think about mentoring when there's less of a structure in terms of how the labor market looks like, how the job search process looks like, and when we live in an environment where information is very costly to acquire, especially for this young adult. So how do they form their ideas about who they want to be? How do they decide what jobs are paid enough for them, are located close to home, when it's really hard to get information about what jobs do even exist? And so we designed this mentoring program connecting these young adults to what we call successful workers in their sector of training. Now, I don't want you to think of them as the, I don't know, Elon Musk or Bill Gates, you do your pick, but these were really successful in the sense that we're workers that were working in the sector in which they received training. It's a pretty, I would say, slim measure of success, but in a labor market with high unemployment, it's a pretty good one. And so we were able, through the study, to also record a lot of the mentoring sessions. We had over 400 hours of conversations between mentor and mentees. And so I'll speak more about the impacts later in a different session, but I just want to say one piece, that was that both for male and female mentees, what we see in the conversations is that what was really important that the mentors could provide was not only, of course, information, as I was describing, about the labor market, but also this personal, like we've heard the word a lot, the relationship that was created, the personalization of the advice, the encouragement, the motivation to keep going. These are youth that are entering into a pretty hard labor market, especially in the first few years, that have to put in the effort to acquire more practical skills. Sometimes they might find jobs that are not paid as much as they wish they were paid or expected for them to be paid. And so the mentors are really proved effective in realigning their expectations, but also providing that motivation. So that personal component and this one-on-one mentoring from other youths that were just around 5 years older would prove pretty effective. So this was a little bit of background on what I've been thinking about in the last few years, but I think that's enough about my voice. We're gonna move to another voice that I would say more powerful, and definitely that reached out to way more girls, that is Voice for Girls. I'm going to leave the word to Anusha to tell us a little bit more about the program, and maybe if you have also an experience that you have in mind or a particular example of how you managed to uplift one or more, whatever example you want to give us, we're here for that.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Arundhati, and team for this amazing summit and for bringing the Echidna Global Scholars from across the world here. Very honored to be on this panel with Livia and Christine and Tran. I'm going to take you back to 11, 12, when we started, thinking about adolescent girls in school. They had a summer break, 8th grade. They're transitioning from 7th grade to 8th grade. And while we were doing let's do art, let's do English, we realized girls were not coming back to school after the holidays are over. So in that context is where Voice started to say, adolescent girls, that age is super critical, no matter where you are in the world, what class, what caste, that age is difficult. But not only that, if they come from a marginalized society, it's not just a physical or an emotional change, but it is life can change. She can transition from girlhood to adulthood with just one period. That's it. And her life completely changes. So much was happening. She wasn't given the ability to decode all of this before she's probably married and has few children before the age of 18. So he said, okay, we need to do something. But all the models that existed, and I think it still continues to exist, is let's now bring the teacher, let's train the teacher. And we went down the same path. And very soon we realized, and I remember that one girl who came and said, I said, why aren't you in the class? She says, no, I don't want to be in this class because we're teaching her about reproductive health, what kind of like emotional, hormonal changes are happening. She said, I don't want to be in this teacher's class. I said, no, but she's so friendly, so much fun you're having. First thing she will say, Akka, is good girl, bad girl. You're a good girl, you're a bad girl. And I realized that our entire program was gone in that one sentence. So the teacher is doing life skills, teacher is doing voting duty, teacher is doing, that teacher is just so overburdened, but also the teacher is part of the same gender society that's given her her own ideas. Now putting up this whole reproductive sexual health and life skills on her, one she's like, oh, another class I have to do, and she's coming from the same society that's saying good girl, bad girl. That's when voice said, okay, we need to create the safe space. It has to be gender transformative. The teacher will and can be enabled to do it, but it's a longer process. And by the time we figure this out, I'm sure the entire class of 25 girls are married or not coming to school at least. So that's when we figured out that, let's go to young college students. India has, and we've spoken about the demographic dividend, so many young college students, and probably this generation of college students, they want to create social impact. So we said, okay, let's take them on a social internship journey, let's train them. And that was transformational for us as well as the college student and the girls. Because I think creating this gender transformative safe space through the young college student who act as camp counselors to us was the innovation that we realized was working for the girls. Because this girl is doing two roles. She's one, being a peer educator. She's teaching them about, what's going on in her body, how to navigate life, how to negotiate at home, how to plan for the future, what her rights are, how to stay safe from violence. That's all information, knowledge part. But the critical component she was bringing is the mentoring part. The mentoring saying, I am there with you. Let's think this through. And the beauty about this person who's a young adult there is like, I don't know still, but these are probably some things that I tried at your age. Why don't we think of this together? She became a friend. She became a mentor. And through this journey of learning, unlearning, the young college student and the adolescent girls create an atmosphere that is nourishing, that allows the adolescent girls to thrive. Because we want her to thrive. We don't want her to only survive, right? How do we take it past that? Was by creating that gender transformative space. And these young college students who act as educators and mentors are critical to it. And I'm just going to tell one story. We had a camp counselor who was an undergraduate student herself who came for our first camp. And she was trained to be a camp counselor. She went into this government school. It's a government residential school called Telangana Social Welfare Residential School. She did that program for 10 days with the girls. And then she continued. By the time she finished her her graduate, and then she went on to do PG, she had come to at least 30, 40 of our camps as, camp counselor and a voice trainer. And then she said, okay, I want to join voice. And after she joined Voice for Girls, she has met the same like girls from her first cohort. And she says she knows everyone by name. Everybody knows how to connect with her. And Bhagya Akka became their Akka throughout their own journeys of finishing 10th grade, finishing college, finishing so much so that she's the one who will say, okay, I know that these were in my classroom. These girls will come back as trainers for us. And she's trained them to be trainers. And now she's working with one of the girls who was on the other side. That's the power of being a friend and a mentor, that you're going beyond just, okay, I have this transaction with you. Ultimately, it is some kind of a transaction, but it is life-changing for the mentor as well as the mentee. For Bhagya and her classroom of students, it remains a beautiful relationship that's gone beyond.
Thank you very much. This is a inspiring and beautiful, beautiful experience. I was about to remark, and you did it before I could, and also in the previous panel, and I think throughout today has been brought up, what do mentors have to gain? Like what's in it for the mentor? And as you were telling the story, and even before when you said there's going to be a girl and a slightly younger who who sits and says, I don't know, I don't have all the answers myself, but I would bet that through the journey she would also get a lot of those answers herself. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to now move maybe to Christine first, and we're making it unexpected. If you can tell us a little bit more about the mentoring program that the well-being team has been doing as part of the work that the Cotton On Foundation does. So.
Okay. Thank you very much, Livia, and my colleagues from the Kidna Global Scholars. It is really lovely listening to all this about mentoring. I'm learning a lot. I'm actually blown up because I'm saying my mentoring program needs to grow bigger. But however, I still have a little to share. And as Livia said, I come from the Cotton On Foundation. This is the philanthropic arm of the Cotton On Group, and we work in marginalized communities in the western part of Uganda, and so specifically in the area of education. So the organization tries to ensure that these children that we are supporting, I'm calling them children at this point, but they go beyond 18 years of age, which is the point at which they become adults, but that these children receive a holistic education. So it has everything to do with the teaching and learning and all that goes to see that the academics are going on well. But we know that at the center of all this is the well-being of a child. And one of the aspects that we handle under well-being is mentoring. So mentoring in this program has taken a direction and whereby we are looking at the structures already set up by government. So one of the structures set up by government is that in every school, there is a female teacher who is, I would say, somebody charged with the duty to see to it that the girls attend school, they are retained all through the cycles that they are going through, but also that they complete their education and become meaningful, contributing citizens. So where is this mature lady teacher coming from? It's coming from the culture and the tradition. We have our what we can call our aunties who are always there to mentor girls in a home. So a mother may not say everything and anything to her daughter, but this aunt will take her aside and be able to talk to her. And this girl is more open to talk to this auntie. She sees her as a confidant. She's somebody she can tell certain things that she wouldn't say to her mother. So this is really a cultural aspect, and we are taking advantage of this. And what we do with the girls is basically through these teachers. So as an Echidna scholar, this is one thing that I picked up and knew that first and foremost, government had pronounced it, but there was no policy document that can tell us exactly what is the role of this specific teacher. So this teacher was actually doing a full timetable. And yet at the same time, you're being called a senior woman teacher, somebody who is supposed to mentor the girls. So they really actually didn't have the time to do this. But I was able to work with government and other non-government organizations and make this a policy. So right now, at least we have a clear role. There's still a long way to go. I liked what Dr. Memon said. What is a policy anyway? I saw that we were missing quite a number of those steps still, but I'll say small steps are good steps. At least we are somewhere. That teacher is there, and this is what my organization is taking advantage of. So what does this teacher do with the girls? So you find that she's first and foremost generally a role model. I'm talking about marginalized girls. Really having a teacher is a very high level. So at least they have somebody to look up to who has gone through the same problems with them, maybe even comes from the same village. They know her home. They know how her home is very similar to theirs, but she has come out. So she's a role model. Then she's an advocate. How does she do this? She is the one who sits with the girls. She knows their issues. So she can go back to management and say, no, you know what? We need a bathroom. We need water. We need some soap. I need some pads. you know. So she's there to talk for them where they have not been able to talk, but also to push management to support in the schools. Then she's the health educator. Girls need facts, they need information. But as I said, some of this information, they cannot easily just get it from everyone. The best they can do is from their peers. But is it right information? Is it enough information? No. But this teacher is there and is able to give this correct information. Issues around menstrual hygiene. She's really top on this job. She's there to talk to them, tell them about how to use the reusable pads, how to keep the hygiene around this. Really very important. There's also a bit of sexual and reproductive health, but I'll leave that there for now. The other thing she does is to help them with skills development. These are girls who from as early as 13 years old, if you do not have your small money to buy your small pants that you need, your pads that you need, you're going to school without anything. So these girls, they need to be taught to have skills early, and one of the skills are in business. So we in the school support them with small different enterprises. For example, soap making. They can use the soap to wash their clothing, but at the same time, they can sell the soap and get some money, which can buy them their menstrual wear. Apart from that, we are looking at skills in music, dance and drama, sports, games, etc. So she encourages and supports them in this area. Generally, she's the counselor and person who does the guiding for both the career and any other things that maybe need individual or group counseling. So what are the achievements so far? One of our main things is to see that we have retention. Retention in that a girl is able to stay in school right through her different cycles of school. So we have senior 1 to senior 6. So how is this possible? These girls have very many challenges coming from home in terms of early marriage, early pregnancy, poverty generally. But with the help of this teacher, she's able to take them through all these problems and support them, give them the necessary advice and mentoring so that they stay in school. We also look at attendance. I've talked about menstrual hygiene. Are these girls comfortable to come to school every day? So that if they come to school, then it means they're able to learn and then they're able to complete their education and also with good grades. What is so interesting in this mix is that boys have come up and they're peeping around and they're saying, why are you getting the girls the pads? Why are they having the panties? What about us? So what is so interesting, we got for them underpants. We said, okay, here are the underpants, come and listen in. So they listen in, they've understood menstrual hygiene completely. They can actually talk for the girls. This has made them very sympathetic with the girls. They are able to appreciate them for who they are. Issues of laughing is no longer there. They actually watch this and they also try out how to put the pads on the panties and all that, and yeah, they're interested. So this is something that has helped make the group more cohesive. And we are able to see more girls having agency, which is very, very important. They are confident, they can talk for themselves, they're taking leadership positions, they're making very big decisions, in particular to stay in school, and that is what we want to see. I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. This is extremely commendable as somebody who still speaks with her auntie at 34 almost weekly, my mom's sister. I cannot imagine what it means to grow up without that figure. So thanks for sharing. And we'll move now to Tran, who can tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing for Good Vietnam Network. We're moving to now women entrepreneurs. And so can you tell us a little bit about the aspirations that you see in this women as well as the challenges and then how your program is structured to get to them?
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say happy 50th birthday to Mentor Together because exactly 15 years ago, I went to the US and then I was assigned with a mentor. And as a mentee, I have no idea about what mentorship is. And then I came for my mentor's house for the matching dinner and I completely unprepared. And then after that first meeting, I have never reached out to her again. And we lost connection. And then 3 years later, I went back to the US. And now I have not a mentor, but a host mother. But at that time, I had several family issues, and then I reached out to her and asked for her advice. Actually, her responsibility is to get me familiar with US life, but because I have some issue, and then I need her advice, and then we talk. And then gradually, our relationship went beyond host and guest relationship. But she became my teacher, my mother, my sister, my connection broker. So all packed in one term. I think this is mentor. And then since then, I believe that I should integrate mentoring in any of my program that I would develop for my organization. And that is my motto when I when I co-founded For Good Vietnam Network, what is a social enterprise in Vietnam, working towards empowering disadvantaged population, including girls and young women, to fully participate in the economy and the society. And I think that some of you may manage a company or manage an organization. Some of you may be like social entrepreneurs. And you know that embarking on an entrepreneurial journey is very exciting, but challenging, right? At the same time, because it is filled with uncertainty, it's filled with risk and challenges. And in my context in Vietnam, women entrepreneurs found that journey even rougher. I remember that 3 years ago when I recruited the cohort of women entrepreneurs to join our program, and then in the interview, one of the candidates, the background, they have the noisy background, and make me feel very kind of like distressed, because I thought that she is not like committed to participating in the interview. But then when I asked her, why is it so noisy on your end? And then she told me that I was actually in the hospital with my kid. But I really want to do something for my company, and that's why I try to arrange to connect with you for this interview. Or I heard one story from one of the participants whose company just less than 3 years, and because she has an accident and then she lost her leg, so she think that she would have the nursing home, so that when she become old, that is where she can live with her mom. But now that her company is growing and then she has some conflict with the co-founder, and then she cannot manage her team. So many stories like that. And that is when the mentorship come in. Having experienced mentor to guide the women entrepreneurs through the ups and downs of starting and sustaining their companies. Because I think that we share the similarities here in Vietnam and in Global South, that women may have limited business knowledge and skills. We have limited business network. We have fear of failure, and we have some like care responsibility, and that leads to like time poverty, right? At For Good Vietnam, one of the pillar is to empower women economically through female entrepreneurship development. And mentorship is one of the integrated components in our program. So we have 3 types of mentors in my definition. The first one is like technical mentors who help boost business knowledge and skills for women entrepreneurs. The second time is like inspirational mentors who help the mentee discover themselves and instill in them the belief that they can overcome the challenges. And then functional mentors who help the mentees to prepare and then to implement some specific project to address some specific issue. And we match the mentor with the mentee depending on where the mentee is in the journey of their empowerment. Like for aspiring and like early stage women entrepreneurs, we think that we must focus on the power within and also the power with. I mean, like it's like kind of like internal strength within themselves and within their team. And that is when we may have like inspirational and technical mentors all together with the mentee. And that may be like one-on-one mentorship. But for those who have like established ventures, they may need something new. And that is when we may match them with, we kind of like functional mentor. And we will arrange like group mentoring for them, where they will meet with different mentors from different areas who may play the subject matter expert. Because some of them may have difficulties in marketing, some of them may have difficulties in like finance, some may want to have like international network so that they can scale up their business. And that is, we cannot have like one mentoring, right? To cover everything. And that is when we have the group mentoring for the established women entrepreneurs, to help them to expand the connection as well. I mean, like that is also good for them. And we did that kind of like hybrid abroad, because we have mentees across Vietnam, and we have 3 different regions in Vietnam. We have to travel by flight. So that is the reason why we will depend on the location of the mentees, that sometimes we may arrange like online mentoring, and sometimes they may have like in-person mentoring. So it's flexible depending on the needs and the demands of the mentees, and also, of course, the availability of the mentors as well. So I hope that it gives you like a picture of what we are doing for mentorship with For Good Vietnam.
Thank you, Sharon. So, thank you. So this lends us pretty well into our next question. My next question slash deep dive I wanted to do on. So we think of mentorship, and even just hearing you through, or even just hearing you, Tran, as something that's very flexible and adaptable to the context, that can take many shapes, can be addressed to different. You can target it to different people. Thinking about the models of mentoring that have been adopted for the 100 years, or studied for the 100 years, that were mentioned in the plenary in the global north or in the US. What would you say you had to adapt to your context? What would you say you really had? Like, it wouldn't have flied, like it wouldn't have worked if you had just done it as had been done elsewhere. And I guess we can restart with you, Anusha. And
I think the mentoring that the global north has, I think in general is in a very different context. Like a global south, very complex, the workforce, gender ratios are all like very crucial to the way we design it. For instance, here, group mentoring is something that we've realized is the first, maybe most critical step, because one, especially when you're working with girls and adolescent girls, rural areas, for them to be able to even access a place where they can get this information would require that they come in a group, and if they're coming in a group, how do we then have the mentor engage with this whole group in a way that the context is set? Because again, when you're talking about things like reproductive sexual health, you're talking about relationships and consent, it's so critical that you have a space that feels safe, and the safety will come in numbers. So I think in a way, the global north sort of like one-on-one mentoring maybe is stage 2 or even probably stage 3 in many times. For instance, I remember there is this is a program we run for young women in colleges, and we say, well, let's prepare for the future. What does future readiness look for you? And of course, we do things like how do you write a CV and all of that. But a very critical component is helping them understand menstrual, sexual, reproductive health, helping them understand gender, all of this, including, how do you stay safe from violence? What are your rights at the workspace? Because that's crucial for her to be able to negotiate. It's not just the technical degree and knowing what job she can get, but she still has to go home and negotiate to delay marriage, because they're like, okay, why don't you get married and then you can work? But then all of the complications that come with that, right? So how do we enable her to negotiate at home? How do we enable her to make those really important conversations? Because I can have a mentor to say, this is the path you take, but she still needs to fight the battle at home. So how are we able to do this life sort of support, right? And I remember in this college, it's bang in the center of Bangalore, a very simple question that was asked to the girls, where the young women undergraduate is, there were about 54 young women. And the question we asked is, you're in a relationship and your boyfriend is, jealous that you're speaking to other men. And would you call this violence? Okay, of 54 young women there, only 3 of them found it as violence. Okay, they think that if the man is in love with a woman, he should be possessive. That's a way of showing love. He cares about me enough that he wants me all to himself. And the whole conversation that happened over the next few days is to decode what is consent, what is a healthy relationship, how do you be in a relationship of trust and respect, because this is a question of trust and respect. But it required to create that safe space in a group to have these conversations. Again, goes back to translation of that information to knowledge to application to their own life, because messaging is not only family, right? Especially for this generation, a 10 rupee recharge is enough for them to get unlimited access to internet. In fact, for many of the boys, they believe that and many of their first initiation into what is sex is through porn and pornography in India. Lots of studies have said is how boys actually learn, probably, and which is full of violence, right? Like, then how do you then engage with all these messaging? They're seeing movies where the hero is, coming into a classroom and saying, "You're my girlfriend and nobody should talk to me." And then the whole movie is about how possessive he is. How do you decode that? Because that's the message that this young woman has taken to see this is how you fall in love. Or you go into a classroom and you ask women that, how do you talk about safety in a workspace? They don't know, because even their immediate environment, there aren't too many women in the space. Again, going back, talking to adolescent girls, where if you're in a rural area, forget about even if there is a family phone, she cannot use that phone. She'll be asked a question: who are you talking to? Why should you talk at this time? What is the necessity? Go to college. The boy, who's probably her brother younger, also has more access to it than her. Now jobs are changing. She doesn't have access to resources. Even if she has, there's so much vigilance. What are you doing? Who are you speaking to? Why should you? Not required. You have to anyway get married. After you get married, maybe your in-laws. All of this she's negotiating while the landscape is changing. Everything is changing at such a fast pace. During COVID, we had to make 1 lakh phone calls, 100,000 phone calls to reach 15,000 girls. And even those 15,000 girls where we did online class, constantly somebody's asking, why are you teaching her about menstrual health? Learning all this only, she's becoming all of this. Don't do it. So then this mentor then is able to take the group, break those silos of information, bring people together. There is support and solidarity. I think for girls and women especially, support and solidarity is the critical changer, because it's not just like, again, it goes back to the networks, right? It's who my mother knows, who my sister knows, who's my sister's friend, who do they know, and those networks are the one that open, and it comes through that support and solidarity. I'm not alone. Together we can go further and farther. So yeah, I can
Thank
keep
you.
talking about many examples. I should stop.
Thank you. This was extremely enlightening, I would say. So you brought in this idea of like safety. Both you started with just safety, as in like traveling to where the mentoring is happening, but then it's more of a, I would say, a more broad and encompassing sense of safety, of talking even about certain topics, even listening about certain topics, not feeling the discomfort if you're the only one in the room, and then breaking some of the taboos. So even just starting the conversation, so the group aspect of that can be helpful. I'll move to Trent. So now we'll follow the seating arrangement. Do you want to tell us about if there was anything, the same question, context specific, that
As I just mentioned at the beginning, when you started mentor together here, I have no idea about mentorship. So it means that mentorship is very like new concept in Vietnam, and it's just become popular recently. So when we have mentorship in our program, we try to apply the model from the global north. That is like a traditional model, having one experienced mentor match with one mentee. And then we try to help them understand that this is the shared responsibility of both mentor and mentees to make the relationship effective and successful. But this is not very easy because first, the definition of mentorship is still blurred in the context of Vietnam. And second, because of the gender, kind of like gender discrimination. So women in Vietnam, they tend to obey, they tend to follow the leader. And in the mentor and mentee relationship, they consider mentor because of their experience, because of their age, because of their seniority. Then mentor may be something like the leader, and they should follow that, especially if the mentor is male, right? So what we try to do in our program, we try to adapt that to the mindset and also the local culture, is to set a little bit ground rules for the mentorship program by helping them to follow the 3 rules. The first one is about clarity. So right at the beginning, everything must be clear about the roles of the mentor and the role of the mentee. And they should sign, we call like the commitment letter, where they will share the goals. And it should like discuss between the mentor and the mentee. Mentee may have some goals, and mentor cannot like cover everything or address the needs of mentees like totally 100%. So if we have that gap exist, so both of them should agree and then let us know, I mean the program organizer know what we can support them. For example, if the mentee want to have more like global connection, and that is not the mentor strength, they can specify that in their commitment letter. And that is where we can support them to match them with another mentors, or to also have that questions raised in the platform for mentor and mentees. This is the first one about clarity. The second one is about collaboration. Because as I mentioned with you, mentee as a female, they quite a lot play the role, I mean the passive role in any relationship. And then they will not feel comfortable to have like shared responsibility, because they just like helping hand of men, right? And also in the family and in the workplace. And that is the reason why we try to highlight the concept of collaboration. By if we ask them to submit the report for us so that we can monitor the progress, for example, that report must be co-produced by both mentor and mentees. And also the other rule is about the commitment. You know that mentors, when they come to our program, they are all voluntary. And for mentee as well, this is like skill development program, and we have no credit for them. So mentorship is also something like a non-mandatory component during the program. And to maintain the commitment of both mentor and mentee is very challenging. So we try to show them the good examples within the community. We have like Facebook. Facebook is quite popular in Vietnam, and we have a close group of mentor and mentees on Facebook. And then after their monthly session, each group will share with us in that group Facebook what is the key takeaway in their mentoring session. And by that way, other members in the community can also know what happened with other mentor and mentee groups. And then they can learn from that. They can know how to communicate that. They can identify the problems and the challenges. And by that way, they know that everything is happening outside of their group. And that also maintain the commitment. So that is how we adapt.
And this is, I have a quick follow-up questions. This is a group, the group you described is all mentor and all mentees together, or is it a group with all the mentors and then a group with all the mentees?
We have the group with all the mentor and mentee all together.
Okay.
Yep.
Because we have heard also this morning about mentors learning from other mentors or something that works
Yes.
for you might not work for me.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I found that to be particularly useful, and I would say relatively easy to implement. I mean, nothing is easy, but relatively easy to implement. Christine, we'll move to you and to my beloved Uganda. So thinking about context specific, again, the question is what, in designing your program, what do you think you really needed to change for the context of like girls in schooling in Western Uganda?
Thank you very much, Livy. Indeed, there are a lot of lessons that we've learned, and I, like Anisha, has alluded to some of them, but it is something to do about the holistic approach to mentoring. We go in there thinking that we are going to mentor mainly around academics, issues around the school, but a girl will come and she presents one problem. But when you start discussing with her, thousands of problems will come up. And so it is so difficult for you to start thinking about academics when she has social issues, very many financial issues behind her. Generally, she is not stable. There is no way she's going to be in school and manage to come every day to school with all these challenges that she's facing. So we need to involve more stakeholders in the mentoring process. We need to have a chain of referrals linked to this, because the mentor can actually get overwhelmed. The challenges that the girl can give you, you yourself, you don't know how somebody is going through this. I can give small examples whereby a girl has been defiled, she gets a baby, she's 14 years old, she doesn't have her mother and father supporting her. She's been given away. She actually got pregnant because she was given away to work as a maid and was defiled in the house where she went to work. So she's come back. She has this baby. There's nobody, obviously, to keep the baby, because you want her to come back to school, but who is going to keep the baby? And we had one unfortunate incident. She was so young. She had the baby. It was newborn. She put the baby in the diaper, and the umbilical cord bled. She didn't know. The baby died. So unfortunate. She's 14 years old. What do you do with such a person? What help do you give? So really that holistic approach, whereby we are not only looking at the academics, looking social, trying also to touch in the financial, and then also having these referrals to make sure that if it's a case where you can't handle, you have where to at least get this support, and then continue with the mentorship and the education of these girls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. I would maybe summarize what we've talked about so far by saying, and I'm curious to see if you then agree, then thinking about the global South perspective, thinking about mentoring and thinking about girls. It sounds to me from what you shared that there's really immense potential, right? From the first round of experiences that you shared with me and with the rest of us, like how powerful, how many beautiful examples of and success story are out there, and there's more to be created. At the same time, again, looking at girls and looking at the global South, it sounds to me that also the challenges are really there. And so we talked about from not having sometimes enough women that can mentor, just because there isn't enough women in the labor force. We've talked about in the context of India, but not exclusively. We talked about the concept of mentorship being in and of itself new. So we're all here talking about mentorship. We clearly know what that means, but imagine working and trying to advocate for something that it's not really understood or valued. So really starting from the step zero. We talked about highlighting and using part of the culture from the maybe collectivist culture, as you were sharing, like the idea of collaborating in Vietnam. And then I think what came out, and the word holistic brought it all together, this idea of really needing to provide these girls with more than just here's one little skill or here's one mentoring on one specific aspect. So really the push for a broader and I would say more all around support. Before I open, I want to just leave one, if you have anything to say to what I just said, like this idea that there's immense potential, but immense challenges. So my takeaways, we have to roll up our sleeves even more and keep going. But if there's anything else you want to add to this before I open the floor for questions, whomever wants to take this.
And again, going back to the context of this mentor and mentee, probably most times when you're working with underprivileged, the mentor doesn't come from the same background sometimes. So I think this whole outsider-insider is also in a group mentoring sort of like leveled out. For example, in one class when we asked that, there's this girl who had a challenge that she wanted extra tuition because math was really difficult for her. And while the session was being done, the girls in the classroom actually gave her ideas. Somebody said, why don't you, do an extra job and get money so you're not asking the family for money. Another said, well, why don't you ask for materials from the tuition class and you study on your own so that you don't. Another said, if, the household chores are a problem, get up in the morning and do it. And another girl actually said, just tell your mother I'll stop eating. I will starve till you send me. But these are solutions that they are coming out because they've all tried it in their own setting. So the mentors allowing that space for them to also put their own life circumstances. So I think that lens of, maybe I'm an outsider and I don't know, and I obviously will not be able to do 100% of everything, but how then they can start mentoring each other in that. I think that's also a very beautiful way of leveraging that potential.
I think that in my context, the main challenge is how to put mentorship in the complete ecosystem of entrepreneurship. When I mentioned about that, I want to share about the challenge of male mentor because we want to get female entrepreneurs more engaged with male mentors. Of course, they will feel like stronger connection with female mentors where they can share their personal and also their professional challenges. But we also want to have them to get more engagement with the male mentor so that they can learn from different perspective and different leadership style, and then they can understand. And that is where they really in the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. But the challenge is that when we recruit male mentors, they are quite reluctant to become the mentor for female entrepreneurs because of the fear of misconduct allegation. That is quite sensitive, and because they don't really understand the challenges of women, because they see that starting the company or managing the company, the women are doing good job, and there's no problem. I mean, like internally, and then they cannot understand. They do not have enough gender awareness, and that is the main challenge so far in my context.
And let me follow up with, do you feel that instead women would welcome this mentorship from male? Have you seen any resistance from male entrepreneurs? Have you seen any resistance there? Is it more, on the male side, harder to find?
I have to tell you that at the beginning, we have several cases of failure when we match the male mentors with the female mentor, especially in the technology sector. Because they cannot find out a common voice in some issue, and then women entrepreneurs feel like uncomfortable or uneasy to share with the male mentors. But when we have like some sharing session with the male mentors, so that they can understand what really the challenges of female entrepreneurs, that does not make sense with them, but now they understand that this is common. And then when they have, when male mentors are on kind of like on the same page with women entrepreneurs, I think that everything becomes easier to build the trust and to build the rapport. And that we are feel happy that more and more male mentors come with our programs, and then we have like easier matching process. It's just about the interest. It's just about the share goals. It's not about the gender anymore. At least so far so good. But we hope that we can make more improvement to have more male mentors engaged in our program. Yeah.
Thank you. This is really fascinating. It reminds me of, I'll just maybe take 1 minute, something that I think somebody mentioned earlier, that I've started working on a project with Mentor together. One of the things that we're thinking about is how can we, just in general, how can we attract more mentors? Mm-hmm. But also the two follow-up questions are, what mentors do we even want to attract? Do we want mentors that are motivated by certain types of motivations that we can call, say, extrinsic motivations? They want to boost their CV, they want to learn some skills, or do we want mentors that are more driven by intrinsic motivations, or do we want mentors that are driven by wanting to help women in STEM, for example? And then ideally, what we will be able, I don't have an answer yet, but what we will be able to see is if we do find male mentors that are driven by, their motivation is really to help getting more women into STEM, then are some of these barriers maybe reduced? Like, will it be easier? So kind of asking the question of, we do need more males, especially in certain occupations, because the status quo is so that there's not enough women in the labor force. And can we, hopefully the answer will be yes, so stay tuned, but can we identify certain males with certain motivations that end up being effective as mentors? So hopefully for the next mentoring summit, we'll have the answers. Yeah. I'll leave the word to Christine for last point before.
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, when you talk about there are not enough mentors, both trained mentors, but even like in the case of the female teachers, we don't have female teachers everywhere. So when there's no female teacher in a school, who is going to talk to the girls, you know? So it's really something very important. I just wanted to highlight something about psychosocial and emotional support in relationship to mentoring. And I think it goes back to what I said last about how does the mentor handle in themselves, because psychologically you can be impacted on, but also just the girls themselves. How are we navigating between these two, being able to mentor, but also taking care of the psychosocial and emotional state of both the mentor and the girl. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. We did pretty well on time, I would say. I was terrified after the last panel. So, okay, we're gonna open it up to you. We have 6 minutes, so a couple questions at least. Maybe we can take. Okay, we'll start. I saw one end here. Well, there's 3 hands there, so maybe the most efficient way and there's one over there. Okay, let's try with 4. Now I committed to 4. So there's 3 right there and 1 up there. Maybe we can take a couple and then answer. Oh, and there's another one. Okay, let's see if we can. I want to make sure the organizers are okay with 5 questions before I. Maybe we can take a couple questions, and if you can state your name and who the questions is directed to, if there's a person.
Hi, my question is directed to any of you 3. So basically, young age is also the age where girls are building their identities and understanding their sexuality and everything. And how do we navigate this, especially in a place where it's illegal, punishable, and also culturally frowned upon? How do we navigate the mentorship with respect to LGBTQ youth, and how do we make sure that they're included in the larger program? Yeah.
Hi. So I think when Anusha, you spoke about the different contexts that we're dealing with. So recently, as a mentor, I had a very challenging situation which I do not think I was able to address. So there was a student of mine, a girl student, female student, who came to me, and she was being shouted at by another faculty. So I come from academia. I'm a professor at a university. Because they were allotted a group project and they were sitting. So there were 3 girls sitting with 4 boys, and they were doing it in the classroom. They were doing the project in the classroom. And a person of authority saw them and said, how can girls and boys sit together? And this is 2024 in Bangalore, right? And so what he did is, so he is basically the assistant vice principal, right, of this discipline that they're students of. He immediately called up the parents of all the girls and told them that your girls do not know how to behave. So when my mentee kind of responded back saying, sir, we were just doing a project, this is the faculty who has assigned a project, he said, no, you are not supposed to do this. This speaks a lot about your character. And then he complained to the parents saying, your girls need to be taught how to be of good character. So this mentee comes to me, she's a first year student, so she's hardly 18. And she said, I do not want to apologize to this person because I did not do anything wrong. So the parents also initially were on board and they said, fine, you don't need to apologize. So I write an entire email, I CC to whoever is possible, including the pro vice chancellor, and I tell them this is not a boys only, girls only university, all genders should be allowed. And then at the end of it, the parents actually call up and say, madam, we don't want any action to be taken. The teacher will ensure that my child fails. So we are okay with writing an apology letter. Now, for me, this incident is something that leaves a mark on my mentee. That A, I'm not supposed to sit and talk to people of opposite gender. And B, if I have to, even if I'm not wrong, I need to apologize. Now, at this point, I felt A, very powerless, because once the parent has said there, and all that person demanded was an apology saying, I am sorry. So the apology was very interesting. So she said, I am sorry, I was doing a project with
so and so in my class, I will never do it again. So I asked her, do you want not to do the project, or do you not want to sit together? So she said, ma'am, I did not want to apologize, but I was forced to, because, he can impact my marks. So when we are working in academia, especially, we come across, uh, although I don't like to use this word in a gendered sense, but we come across men who are extremely traditional, and women, female faculty, who are extremely traditional in the way they think women should dress, who they interact with, what are the things they talk about. And as a professor of English, we are often talking about different things, right? So we are talking about sexuality, we are talking about gender, we are even talking about menstrual health, mental health, etc. We are frowned upon. And secondly, our students are told in the next very class that this is not something you should talk about. So, how do we deal with such challenges?
Thank you. Okay, I would say let's try to answer this too. We'll keep it brief so that we can get to the next three. The first question, I don't know if Christine, you want to take it, or on sexuality and LGBTQ. How do we make sure in environments where, in some cases, it's even illegal to discuss certain topics? How do we incorporate that in our mentoring?
Thank you very much. Definitely, I would say that I'm from that type of a background. But what we are doing right now is to make sure that we give the children agency, be able to know what they want and be able to go for what they want. I know if you were to pronounce it loudly, you get a problem. But at least when you know what you want and you get the opportunity to have what you want, you're able to get it. So I want to give an example of something that I told the team yesterday about a girl who told me that traditionally we are supposed to kneel as girls. We kneel for the men. So she said that she doesn't want to kneel. And you know what she told me? In my heart, I'm standing. So right now, I think we are at that point where we are standing in our hearts. We are taking small steps, but I'm sure one day we shall be able to get there. But just giving them the agency is the first step that we can get to give them. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine, and a safe space to even just say that. The question was long, so the answer has to be short.
Very short. This case, I would say it's a win. And I'll say three reasons why it's a win. One, the issue went beyond the immediate group. It went to a discussion. Many people discussed it. There was more awareness about the issue. Two, you went beyond being a mentor. You became a champion, not just for that girl, but for the issue. Again, that's a win, because you need to transcend those boundaries. You're standing up now for the issue of equality, and there is no good, bad girl, whatever, right? And third, there is a requirement for institutions to divest power. So in all three counts, it's a win. Though you feel in this particular claim, the outcome was she had to apologize. Some of these things aren't about that issue at that moment to that person. It is about larger, and maybe you will see this reform in a generation. That's why we tell, when we speak to girls, maybe all the girls in my classroom, only maybe 20% may go on and, live a life of the potential they want, but they will ensure the next generation, their daughters will never face what they faced. So it's intergenerational. So please take it as a win and continue the fight. Don't give up. That's the only thing. You've already become a champion. Continue the fight.
We have one here and one there. We'll take those two. And then there was the one up there.
Yeah, hi, I'm Anuradha.
We'll keep short.
Yes, it is a great segue. So my question is, when there is not a win, right, where there's no conversation and there's absence that it leads to, right? The girl has to leave the class, the family is not allowed. And like you said, you called 1 lakh people, but only 15,000 were reachable. So how do we bridge that gap? Like, mentorship also has to be extended towards family counseling and more things. So how do we go about that gap there?
Yeah, my question is particularly to Christine and Anusha. How do we address the concerns of confidentiality? Sometimes in the zeal of sharing the best practices, and all of the group mentoring and all is a good approach, but then we also need to be very much concerned about not sharing sensitive information. And if that sensitive information is shared, it can lead to distrust, and breaking of the mentor-mentee relationship. So how do we address concerns of confidentiality? Any examples?
Thank you. We'll take the last one up there.
Hi, my question is to Anusha. I really like the work that Voice for Girls do. All three of you, it was very enriching to listen to all three of you and the work that three of you have been doing. So my question is basically, so when you, so I work with young women. I work with Now Kurukul, which is a residential program for young women from under-resourced backgrounds. So I know of like a lot of programs with mentorship, and in a country like India, a lot of money from CSR and all, people are willing to spend on women empowerment, so to speak. So a lot of opportunities happen to these girls. And you yourself said, spoke earlier as to how, these girls have the resources to, through these workshops or these camps, they get agency to talk about things like consent or something. And while versus adolescent boys get to not learn about these because their agency is pornography. And Christine mentioned about like how young boys peek into classrooms and are curious about it. So I wanted to know as to how and when I go on ground, I hear teachers talking about how girls in the classroom are much more dependable in terms of, so also because of social conditioning of how they have to be more responsible, but also their leadership tendencies are emerging through these camps that they attend to, and they're more open to conversations while boys keep running away from talks about reproductive health or something. So I wanted to understand, like, have you ever come across any such curiosities that Christine mentioned from boys or from schools or teachers or the administration interested in exploring this to boys? Same as to how we can translate this, like the girls can take back this transformation, this this transformative gender safe space that you talked about back into the classroom to make the adolescent boys also part of the agency, like the support and solidarity.
Thank you very much. Great. Okay, so we have 3 questions. Just as a recap, the first one was from the lady over there. What do you do when there's no way, or it seems like there's no way? I don't know who wants to take it, or if it was directed to someone specific. I think it was broad.
I think that in my case, this is for young women. And then sometimes when they cannot have family support for their entrepreneurial ideas, it is when they really need the outsider mentors. But at the same time, they also require the family atmosphere during the conversation with the mentors. So that is the reason why we always try to encourage them to agree at the beginning, the confidentiality, and also the communication channel that they feel comfortable to use when they work with the mentors. I mean, they can have a setting that they feel familiar with. Maybe that is in the office, maybe this is in a cafe, or maybe it is just online, and even online there are different platforms. So as long as they feel the setting is familiar with them and give them the feeling, the cozy feeling, it is how we can make up for that absence. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we're out of time, so we're going to leave this to you, Anusha, to respond very quickly to we had the sensitive information and then the boys.
Yeah. Yes. Again, quickly, creating a safe space was very critical. And creating the safe space meant teaching the mentors or the trainers how to handle disclosure, because disclosure will happen. You're talking about life, you're talking about sensitive issues. Disclosure in what you can say, what will be the surrounding, what will be your physical distance, even it matters. Sometimes they feel, oh, let's go hug her, but she's probably having a trauma from some physical experience she doesn't want. So there's really critical sessions that we do with our trainers on how do you handle disclosure, who do you report these to, if it is something that needs to be legally reported, how is the channel as well. You can't just go and tell the teacher or the principal. There is a whole mechanism. That's one. So going to the lady from Navgurukul, one, I think our whole Boys for Change program happened in Voice for Girls is because, one, the teacher said, my girls are so far ahead, the boys are far behind. The bureaucrats we worked with said, do something with the boys, they really need to know it. And there was just so much, even from our funders saying, do with the boys. And the past 7 years we worked with the boys, every classroom is us learning. There is actually every classroom, every boy is like, oh, the boys actually think like this. There's so much steep learning to do, but it's been very valuable. Where the boy went back and spoke to the mother saying, now I know you have a period. Don't worry, I will help you in your household chore. He actually came back and said, my mother came behind me with a broom to say, why are you talking all this? But she appreciated that she's getting help. Or navigating at home for the sister's education. Or one boy is saying, Diwali money, I used to get 500, my sister got 100, I was very happy. Now I know it's gender inequality. Now we'll share the money. Small wins. Again, with the men and the boys, it's the small wins. But there are feminist men and boys. We just need to celebrate them and bring them on our side because they are there, they exist, they want to support. We need to make those voices more loud and clear. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this inspiring closing note. Thanks to all the panelists. Thanks to all of you for the questions. I don't know exactly where we're moving next, but it was great to learn from all of you, all this different context, and thanks for bringing it back to India.
Thank you so much to each of our incredible panelists for sharing their time, insights, and expertise with us today. I'm pretty sure we could hear about different stories about young women and girls across South, right? So your perspectives have truly enriched our understanding on the topic and inspired us all to think in new ways. As a token of our gratitude, we would like to present each of you with a small memento. I would like to request my colleague Annie Swati to hand over mementos to all of you. Yeah, Christine. Tran. Anusha. And Livia. A note for all of you. So the lunch has been placed at the terrace and it's already started. So we'll be closing. Request all of you to move to the terrace for lunch. And we'll be also starting with our sessions at 2:30 and it will be done in 4 different venues. So one would be in auditorium, one would be in our seminar hall, one in our gallery and one in our library. So yeah, request all of you to please make a note on the time. Thank you.